Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. We are home today, and we are going through, it's almost like a mini hurricane. We've lost power a couple of times, and it's just weird. It's like bands coming through, and this is kind of the tail end of it. So hopefully it'll be a good day. We got a great show for you today. Danny Weurffel will be joining us. That'll be a lot of fun. Always like talking to Daniel. And of course, Coach Spurrier on Monday. And then Thursday I won't be in, but we'll have a best of show on Thursday. So that's the plan. Anyway, let's get right away to our process service of Gainesville starting five. And we'll start off with, obviously, the game that is going on, Florida and South Carolina. And to me, this is another, and I can't tell you how many of these I've had this year. I will go with Utah, Tennessee, Kentucky. That was probably the three of them. This is the fourth one that is a show me, and I have no feel for it game, which means show me what you've got. Go win a game on the road. But I don't know with you. I don't know that there's a definite path. The path is the same path as it's always been. Play a clean game. If you play a clean game, you got a real good chance to win this game. They're not a great team. They have trouble running the ball. They give up a lot of sacks. Spencer Rattler is obviously a dynamic player, can be amazing at home. It's a tough atmosphere, but it's not, it's not any tougher than Kentucky, to be honest with you. I know they get a few more people, but they also have. They say they've liked the practices all week. Good. That's good news. This is one of those days, actually today, why they built that indoor facility, because you can go have a nice practice over there. And I know that Thursday is it's not a hard work day. You're kind of getting your rest as much as anything, but still, you can just walk right from the Hefner Center right over there. In the old days, you had to walk in the rain. So anyway, we'll see how it turns out, but I have no feel for the game. I picked South Carolina only because Florida hasn't done it on the road. But again, this is just like the Kentucky game, just like the Tennessee game, just like the Utah game. I just don't have a feel for this team yet. That's the weird thing. And I don't think any of you do. I don't think any of you are going, I know exactly what's going to happen Saturday. No. It is college football, which means anything can happen, right? But I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen. Number two on the process service of Gainesville starting five. Appreciate our man Scott Hart, who does a great job with them. I said this on the radio, and my daughter heard it, and she goes, I heard that, Dad. That was pretty, I agree with you. Because we know Florida needs to start fast. There's no question about that. And they haven't started fast on the road. But I would run like a hook and lateral on the third or fourth play of the game. Everybody waits until the end of the game to run that play where you throw the hook and then you lateral it. And some people call it hook and ladder, but it's lateral, and then but it's become slang term of ladder. But anyway, that's not the point. And you always run it at the end of the game like it's going to fool someone. It's rare that it does. Boise State pulled it off once. And so did the Miami Dolphins. I'll never forget that game. But the point is, why not run it when nobody's expecting it? Because it's a great play. You're just running a hook and then just lateral it. But I guess coaches. So I'm not saying that's the only play you could run. But there are several plays. One play that I love is the bubble screen lateral, too. There's a lot of laterals involved in my favorite plays. But the point is, Florida needs to start fast. And they're going to try some different things, but I don't think any of it's significant. I think the bottom line is, are they ready to start fast for once? You look at the games that they played on the road, Utah and Kentucky. Utah, they're down 17-3 at halftime. Kentucky, they're down 16-0 after the first quarter. And what happened in the biggest game that they won this year, the Tennessee game? Well, they were up. They were up 26-7 because they got 20 straight points in the. Actually, they got more than that. They got 26 straight points total, but they got 20 points in in the second quarter. So they started fast and they played at a high level. They got to do that. If they don't do that, it's not going to go well, and then people are going to get mad again, all over again. So we'll see if they do, and that is again something that we all kind of aren't sure whether they can or not, or whether they will. We'll find out. Maybe they've matured. Maybe they've gotten older. I've got a great stat on that I can give you later too, by the way, on how young Florida is. But number 3 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5. There are a lot of injuries going on with Florida. And again, this happens with a lot of teams. And certainly you see it in the NFL. It's crazy. I don't know. I think they're pulling people off the street to play quarterback these days. But obviously, Aguaquin's not going to play. Is listed as out. Andy Jean as well listed as out. So they need a bye week, and if that you can sometimes, I'm telling you, teams will play really good going into a bye week, better than they play coming out of a bye week. But when going into a bye week, that's a carrot for them. We're not going to have to practice every day. We're going to be able to take some time off. We're going to be able to heal our bodies. We're going to be able to rest. And guys will sometimes play well because of that. So maybe they can use that, and they certainly could use a bye week with all the injuries that are going on. All right, number 4, let's switch over to baseball. And please, guys, don't poke the bear is one of the things I believe in. Now, some people like to poke the bear. HBC is number 1. He always shoot an arrow into the enemy camp to irritate, I think was the Sun Tzu saying that he used to always quote. But I don't believe in that. I believe in letting sleeping dogs lie, and the Braves did not do that. And, of course, the thing with Arcia, who, as people entered the locker room, he was going, ha, 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 attaboy, Harper, and okay, I just wouldn't have done those kind of things. And especially if if somebody from the media enters the room, you better clam that up. But he kept going with it. And of course, what Bryce Harper did, hit 2 homers, and it was a blowout Wednesday night. But just don't poke the bear. So I'm sure our friend Ken Hesser's happy his Phillies won, and the game tonight, which is Thursday night. If you're listening to this on Friday, you already know what happened. The get-in price is $325. So people from Philly, that place is going to be rocking. At least Spencer Strider's pitching. That's the only hope I've got as a Braves fan. All right, let's get to number 5 on our starting 5 from Process Service of Gainesville. And that was some good news today. Actually, there were 2 bits of good news. One, Alex Anzalone, if you remember, of course, a great player at Florida, still in the NFL and doing really well. And he told the Detroit paper after their game Sunday that his parents were in Israel, and he was really worried about them and everything. They were with a church group over there from Naples. He tweeted this out today that he is that they're on their way back. They're on the plane back. So that's good news. With all the tragedy that's happening over there, it doesn't lighten anybody who has passed away or been kidnapped or anything like that. And I don't want to get into politics or details on that. Sal and Judy are their names, so that's good news to see that. Also today, Patrick Young had a tweet and said, and he again put it very eloquently, as he always does, that with all the bad stuff that's happening, he still feels. That's not the way he put it. He put it more eloquently than I can. So feels grateful to be home from the hospital since, I guess, late last week. So that's good news. He'd been battling infections, and good to hear that he is back home from the hospital. All right, so that's going to do it for our Process Service of Gainesville starting 5. When we come back, we will be talking to the great Danny Weurffel. He's got a statue out there. I do not.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
This Tuesday at the Gainesville Quarterback Club, we welcome Gator great James Bates, current college football analyst and University of Florida professor. James is always a fun guest to have at the club, and we look forward to seeing him. Next week, we'll welcome Andy Staples, program senior writer for college football. And Andy always has great insight as well, so members are looking forward to hearing what Andy has to say.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast, of course, presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. And it's a great pleasure to bring in the Heisman Trophy winner, the man with the statue out in front, the legend, Danny Weurffel. How are you, Daniel?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's always great to talk to you, Pat.
Great to talk to you. And, I saw this on Twitter. I think that Jonah and Tim Tebow share the same birthday, right?
Joshua, my middle son, Joshua.
Oh, Joshua, okay.
High school youngster. Has the same birthday as Tim. Yeah, small world.
Yeah, small world. You and I were married on the same day. How about that?
Two different people, though. Let's make that clear.
And Spurrier came to my wedding because it was in St. Augustine, so.
Good. Tom Benson, the owner of the Saints back in the time, came to ours. So there you go.
Yeah, okay. You win that one. Okay.
I don't know.
More money. All right. I wanted to talk to you obviously about your tournament coming up. I was trying to think of how many years it's been now since you started it.
Yeah, my goodness. I should know the answer exactly. I think we're at like 13.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, 13.
Been doing this. It's been a really fun way to gather, Florida players and coaches and fans, along with the UGA fans, coaches, players, and have a fun kind of bantering night of a gala, and then also have a little bit of a competition on the golf course. It's been a great fundraiser for the work we do, and so just real excited to do it again this year, the Desire Cup.
Yeah, I've played in it. It's a great tournament, and you're back at TPC Sawgrass, which is, of course, a tough course. I've played that many times too, and that's pretty cool that you're playing it there where they play the players, of course.
Yeah, we love to be back at the venue. It's an awesome spot, and just great courses. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to not play on the stadium this year. They're getting that ready for the tournament. So the Dye Valley course, though, is excellent.
It's a great course. Yeah,
so we'll have tons of fun.
Yeah, it's a great course. I played there too. And so celebrities that you got coming that playing in this from Florida and Georgia this year?
Yeah,
other than you, because you're obviously the big one.
Oh man, we also have a great contingent, but Coach Spurrier's been very well attended. Him and his wife Jerry come each year. We've had a lot of different Gators from different eras show up. We've kind of got into the kind of the 08 season with Ahmad Black and Major Wright. I've been coming and been real exciting, and got some new and old faces there. On the Bulldog side, Lindsey Scott's one of those heroes of the folklore. Herschel's been, I don't think he's going to be able to make it this year. The late Coach Dooley came each year recently, and so we'll be sad not to have him there. We got Kevin Butler, Drew Butler, and a bevy of other Georgia celebs as well.
Kevin Butler is one of my favorite people. I knew him a little bit when he played at Georgia. I covered Georgia, and we got to know each other a little bit. But really cool guy. And the year I played in it, Herschel was playing, I think, in front of me. And man, it was fun to watch because he either killed it or he killed somebody.
But also you may not recall, he had hurt his hand in an MMA fight. So he was actually golfing left-handed and still hit the ton out of the ball. It was pretty impressive.
It was wild. So obviously, let's talk a little bit about what you're able to do with that kind of money for Desire Street, which you've been dealing with for a long time, and it's certainly a great cause. So, I mean, what are the kind of things you can do with that money?
Yeah, well, I was very fortunate, like a lot of people in our country, to be here, to be born, to have so many awesome opportunities and experiences and great support. And as you and I both know, just in certain places, certain zip codes, and certain cities in particular, for lots of different complicated reasons, children don't get that same type of experience. They don't have the same opportunity to get a great education, access to healthcare, and a lot of things that we take for granted. And so in these neighborhoods, there are people that I call heroes that are doing phenomenal work, working with kids and families. And what we found at Desire Street is so often these amazing leaders are burning out, usually in a few years, because it's just such hard work, the things that they're doing and the trauma they see and the amount of needs that are there in the neighborhoods. And so Desire Street partners with leaders for 5 years to help them develop thriving and sustainable organizations. We're impacting, probably thousands or so of kids around the country, hundreds of families, and doing a lot of great stuff. And all the proceeds from the Desire Cup go to support the work that we do at Desire Street Ministries.
And a lot of that is raised in the auction too, which is auctions. I have found out silent auctions are the best way to go when you want to raise money. I know you get some amazing stuff for that as well, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot of great stuff, and we've also got people that can't make it or get to the auction. We have what we call the 19th hole. It's just a way to support the event without being there. So I imagine most people listening to this would probably love to be there, but probably can't. But if you do go to desirecup.com, you can make a gift through the 19th hole. That would mean a lot and it'd go a long way. So thanks.
Well, that's great. That's how you can get involved in this tournament. It's such a great cause. I did want to talk to you a little bit about your experiences going to Columbia, because you obviously had different ones there. The 93 game, the story I heard was that they've got a hold of your number in the hotel and they kept calling it over and over and waking you up.
Man, that does sound a little familiar. When you said it, I thought, Pat, I didn't even have a cell phone back then. But that's right, I didn't. But they were calling the hotel number, so that does sound about right. Fortunately, we had a guy named Jack Jackson who caught a 1-yard pass and ran about 100 yards and helped win that game.
Now, this is a bubble screen in the end zone. When that call comes in from Coach Spurrier, what are you thinking?
Back then I was much younger, and you usually didn't think a lot. You just did what he said. It's always safer to do exactly what he said, especially when you're younger. As I got older, there were times I'd be like, well, this maybe not be what he wanted, and it might change some things. But I just ran the play, and Jack, I think, broke a little tackle right there around the line of scrimmage, and then it was off to the races.
Yeah, with the line of scrimmage being the goal line. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable game. And then the 95 game, I was telling this story the other day to the quarterback club here in Gainesville, that as I'm walking to the game, it is blowing so hard that pebbles are flying up and hitting me in the face. It was one of the most miserable experiences. And then you guys only won 63-7. Is that story true that Coach Spurrier came to you and said, maybe we should just run the ball? And you said, no, let's do what we always do.
Probably something like that happened. I tell you, my favorite memory, though, is for a couple years prior to that, at the end of every Friday practice when we were done, Chris Doring and I would go down to the goal line, and we would, in a sense, try to reenact that famous play where Joe Montana threw the ball. I can't remember the receiver's name.
Dwight Clark.
Yeah, and he'd jump up and he'd catch the ball at the outstretched hands right around 10 feet high. So we would do that. He'd run around the back of the end zone. I'd get around the 10, 15-yard line and throw balls exactly at about 10 feet. Well, towards the end of the first half of the South Carolina game, 95, I rolled to my right, and the end zone was just filled with defenders, but Chris was running behind them. And I just shut off my brain, threw the ball right over several South Carolina defenders, right at that spot that we practiced. Chris jumps up, catches it, gets 1 foot in for the touchdown. Might be my favorite play as a Gator, because one, we had worked so hard on it, and two, it was Chris Doring, who was and still is one of my best buddies. So that's a great memory for me.
Yeah, I remember that. And the amazing thing was you guys just threw the ball all over the place, and the wind was howling. I don't know how hard that was. And how hard it was. I mean, sometimes if it's raining or anything like that, you got to deal with it and just figure it out.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly all how that worked out so well because wind and rain were usually not my friend, but that night it worked out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did want to talk to you about the current team. Obviously, you've been down here for a lot of games. Your son's in school here, a sophomore at Florida, and that's great. Following in your footsteps. Now, does anybody come up to him and go, "Oh, you know Danny Weurffel"?
Usually it's when their parents or grandparents are visiting. He gets those questions. The current students, not quite as much.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you've watched a lot of games. You've been on the sidelines for them. I mean, what are you thinking right now? I mean, I know Coach Spurrier has said they need to throw the ball down the field more, and Coach Napier's heard it, and he said, "Yeah, my wife asked me about it too." What are your thoughts about it?
I think if you to step back and look at it from a 30,000-foot view, I'm really encouraged with what's happening with Coach Napier and the trajectory. I love. I've been around there enough to see the way he leads, the culture he's building, the players, the staff he's putting together, and I think that's like Gator fans can rest assured that that's like elite level right now. He is doing a fantastic job, in my opinion, developing culture. He said it right out the gate. Another super important thing is this is the talent acquisition business. Which means recruiting. And I think they've done a phenomenal job, especially this year. I think the NIL thing was a little bit wonky the first year, but I think we're on track to have just a phenomenal recruiting class, which I think bodes really, really well. I just saw some stat that we by far have the most true freshmen playing right now. And so to have any kind of success with that many young players, knowing they're going to get older and you're going to bring in more great players, I think bodes really, really well. On the field, this year has been awesome watching Coach Armstrong with the defense. That's been a huge uptick for us, and I think all Gator fans can be excited about the trajectory there. And then I think some of the question remains. There's a lot of speculation as should Napier continue calling plays and that sort of thing. I think time will tell. I think he's the type of coach that'll take a good look at that in the offseason and make a really good decision. I also think his particular offense is really the baseline piece of the whole offense is the running game. And when the running game is really working effectively, then everything else can work better. And when you don't have that, it's tough. So I think time will tell as we get some of the players that developed and some other players going and get that going. I would say similarly, it'd be like, if Spurrier couldn't throw the ball, we probably wouldn't have been as effective running the ball. Our throwing opened up the running. In this case, it's the opposite. But I do agree with Coach. Every now and then, you got to throw the ball down the field a little bit more, and hopefully we'll get to that too.
You mentioned NIL, and I remember actually you and I having a conversation when you were at Florida still, and I asked you about it. And it wasn't called NIL obviously then, but it was about players getting some money and you were very much in favor of that. Now that it's happening to these incredible levels where everybody at Utah gets a truck and Carson Beck walks into a Lamborghini dealer and buys it with cash. I mean, what are your thoughts about NIL?
Well, I think NIL, name, image, likeness, is an appropriate, fair thing. I think. But what we have is not that. Like we have almost like a Wild West where it's used for recruiting, it's used for all sorts of other things. And I just don't know how that is a very sustainable situation. And also, it's not just the NIL, but when you combine that with the transfer portal, it's a really weird scenario for colleges to be in, for kids to leave at any moment. I imagine there'll be some more legislation. I would hope there'd be some sort of commitment in terms of, if you're going to be getting paid, you're going to have to sign some kind of contract. And then if you do break that contract, you have to sit out a year or something, more like in the old days. I will say this, and I don't know how other people feel, but as much as I'm not a fan of how the transfer portal and the NIL is happening off the field, it's not ruining my experience of being a college football fan. I'm still loving watching the product. I'm loving the games. When we get to the games, it's still exciting. And so that makes me happy. 2 years ago, I was worried that things could overly change, but at this point, we'll see.
Well, yeah, and I know I've told people, I said, look, Congress is the only one that can change it because everybody's got different rules. Every state's got different rules. Every conference has different rules, and you don't want to change your rules because if you do, then it can be used against you in recruiting, and it's just a mess. But like you said, Danny, I mean, I had a blast watching football last Saturday. Just great games everywhere. So, and attendance seems to be up. I mean, I know it is in a lot of places. Florida's had a bunch of sellouts, obviously, with Napier. So people are still going to the games as well.
Yeah, I think the momentum's good. I do hope there'll be some legislation to govern it a little bit better, get a little bit of guardrails. I think that'd be good.
Is that trophy that's behind you with the hands of prayer? Is that the Weurffel trophy?
So that is a part of the Weurffel trophy. The actual trophy is a full bust of me doing the little praying hands image that I used to do after touchdowns. So that was a sort of a recreation of the hands. So it's actually an exact mold of my hands doing that. It's pretty cool.
Well, and I think your Heisman's at Spurrier's though, right?
I hope not, because there's one downstairs now. We had just gotten it back. He'd had it for quite some time. He's got some of the other trophies now as well, but the main one's back here at home base.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, I wasn't worried about it getting stolen or anything, but I hadn't noticed it in there in a while. But what do you do with all those trophies and rings that you've got? Is it just like a storage bin or?
Well, several of them now are at Spurrier's. A bunch of them are still at my parents' house. It's kind of like you always, when you leave your folks, many times you have a pile of your old stuff somewhere that they keep wanting you to get rid of. And part of mine includes a bunch of trophies and plaques and so forth. But we don't you're really proud of those, but don't have a big display anywhere.
All right, it's time for us to play Yes, No, Where, or Maybe, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks, street dining done the right way. If you go in there and mention that you watched another Dooley Noted podcast or listen to it, free fries with your order. For Danny Weurffel, yes, no way, or maybe.
Wait a minute. Before I commit to this, as a possible, reimbursement for former lost NIL wages, if I play this game sponsored by the cheesesteak, do I get a free cheesesteak sandwich one day?
I will get you a free cheesesteak sandwich. I promise you that.
Yes.
I always think about if you had an NIL deal, you could have manufactured a Weurffel House ad, and you could have made a fortune just on that. Because everybody had those signs up in the stadium,
Yeah, shoulda, coulda.
All right, yes, no way, or maybe. Number one, Georgia and Alabama play for the SEC championship this year.
Yes.
I think Alabama's going to be fine. I think the demise of Nick Saban was a little bit of exaggerated.
Yeah, no, that's funny. It's like every year they thought Tom Brady was washed out.
Exactly. Number two, on Yes, No Way, or Maybe with Danny Weurffel, you can still beat your son in pickleball.
Yes.
Does he play a lot?
He does. Yeah. My son in college, he's pretty good, but he's not playing quite as much as I am these days.
Well, you love that game. I used to play it when I was younger and had two real knees.
Yeah, it's a great sport. Love it.
Back in the old days. All right, number three on Yes, No Way, or Maybe with Danny Weurffel. Seeing your statue in front of the swamp never gets old.
Yes, that's correct. Every now and then when I'm have a lot of energy, if someone's taking pictures there, I may walk up and ask if I can take the picture for them and just see how they react. And sometimes they have no idea. Sometimes they're pretty excited. So it just depends.
Yeah, some old guy came up and took the picture. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I know how long we've both been married, so that's something we have in common, and we're getting there. But hey, Danny, if you want to plug the website one more time to let people know how they can get involved in that silent auction.
Yeah, for sure. The desirecup.com is the event. And the website, you can check that out. And in particular, the 19th hole is a way you can support the event even if you can't be there. So appreciate it. Appreciate you a ton, Pat.
All right. The legend, Danny Weurffel, will be back with more of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Studios.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 280 discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Dooley Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people. Okay, and welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Appreciate Danny for coming on. Always a blast to talk to him. He's got such a dry sense of humor, but man, I remember he actually came to my 50th birthday party. Doring dragged him along. Doring wanted to come, but it was at my house, and he came, and he every once in a while somebody would say something to him, and he would just tell this like really dry joke, and everybody would be like, oh yeah, that's funny. But he's a great guy, really good. And again, DesireStreet.com is where you need to go. DesireCup.com. But anytime you want to go to Desire Street, we give money every year. It's such a great cause. All right, let's get to our Hesser and Kipke three things. And of course, Ken Hesser is enjoying life right now because of what his Phillies are doing. But hey, I still like him. Of course, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. Don't believe me? Well, check out their 5-star Google reviews. Set an appointment at hklawfl.com, or better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. All right. We appreciate them. And Ken and I have to agree to disagree on who should win the series, but he's a good dude. All right, so let's get to three things. And number one, I talked about the Braves and Phils already, but Arizona sweeping the Dodgers. And who saw that coming? Imagine going into Vegas and go, I'll take the Diamondbacks. I almost said Angels. Why would I? The Diamondbacks in 3. How your odds would have been pretty good on that. It's funny because in Philly, when they were blowing the Braves out Wednesday night, they started chanting "Beat LA, beat LA." LA's not gonna be there. Stunning. They were when I looked at the fact the Braves had to play the Phillies and then the Dodgers, I'm like, the Braves don't have enough pitching to get to the World Series. The Dodgers aren't around anymore, so everybody's pretty upset out there in LA and La La Land. Number 2 on the Hesser and Kipke 3 things. I felt bad for Robbie watching the Twins game because I mean you were right there. You had a chance, 3-2 game, lose it. The guy, God, Presley was unbelievable. But I watched that game too. I'm gonna still keep watching games. But it does set up an intriguing series between Houston and Texas. Never played in the postseason before. Obviously, Houston. I still get confused about which league they're in, but I should know since the Braves beat them to win the World Series. But so that'll be fascinating. So we'll see Arizona and probably Philly. And then again, if you're watching this Thursday and the Braves have won, you're like, oh, what are you, Dooley? Or Friday night. Friday, and the Braves won, but I'm assuming they're going to lose. Anyway, I'm a little hurt right now. So Houston, Texas, and then Arizona versus Braves or Phillies, okay? And finally, number 3 on Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Florida announced today that Shane Matthews is going to be their SEC legend. That's a representative of the school, and the school decides who it's going to be. And my first reaction when I saw that was, he's not in? What are you talking about? He's not a legend. And what they do, I had to explain this to my wife. She's not aware of it. It's a kind of almost an in-house thing. It's not a big deal. But 16 different legends, one from each school, and they're honored at some point, halftime or after the first quarter. I don't know when they do it, and they have a nice little dinner and everything. It's nice. It's really cool. And you're basically said you're a legend. I can't believe it's taken this long, 31 years for Shane Matthews to be a legend. In fact, there's an argument that can be made for him to be in the Ring of Honor. But anyway, I don't want to get into that whole Ring of Honor thing. But anyway, Shane's going in, and that's good. He's going to be a legend. It's not even going into a club. It's just that you are a legend. There you go. That is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's get to the Adams Ribco to go Gator of the week. And, when this guy signed with Florida, I remember when he committed and, we were trying to find out about it. And of course, JC Deacon couldn't talk about it. We had him on radio, and he's like, I cannot talk about any recruits. And I'm like, oh, well, it's a good story. But obviously when Ian Poulter's son signs with your school, it's a big deal. Luke Poulter, of course, is a freshman this year. But you're thinking, well, was he any good though? I mean, I'm like, then I talked to JC about him finally when he had signed, and he said he can play, man, and we'll see. We got to develop some stuff, but he can play. He's a really good player. Well, this week he is the SEC Freshman of the Week, so off to a good start. Finished tied for 11th in the Williams Cup. I think he shot 2 over for the whole tournament, and I think 2 under in the last day, or even on the back 9. I know that. But anyway, he had a great week, so it's a good sign. Florida's going to have a good goal. Now, I'm not expecting anybody to win another national championship. You never put those expectations on somebody, but unless you're a Georgia football fan. But I think they can contend, and then you just get into the match play, and it's all about how match play can be. Anyway, Luke Poulter is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the week. So 2 honors in 1 week for Luke. Good job, buddy. Let's get to our maybe we'll get Ian can come on the podcast. Ian, this is an open invitation to you. If you want to come on the podcast and brag about how good Europe is in the Ryder Cup, I'll listen. Believe me. All All right, let's get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Looking forward to tomorrow because Friday, if you're listening to this Friday to today, because I'm playing the Stop Children's Cancer Tournament with Kyle Cohen, the owner of Leonardo's. So we and a couple other friends, Mike Martin, and I'll get Les Lewis. Let's get them all shout outs, but especially our great sponsor of the Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks, Kyle Cohen. We're going to give you 2 games here. Put your thinking caps on. These are 2 big games. Of course, one of them, South Carolina. The spread is going. It went 2-1. Now back up to 2.5 is the spread. So that's minus 2.5. Of course, Florida going to South Carolina. You got to pick that game. And then Washington, of course, hosting Oregon. Washington is giving up 3 points. So Oregon gets 3 points. You know how it works. You got to pick both of them right to qualify. And we appreciate all of you that get in. And a lot of you are, more and more people are getting in the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks, and we appreciate it. All right, let's get to our Swamp games of the weekend. And of course, brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant, where you can go have food and sangria Saturday. That's great. They have free beer night. There's a lot of good stuff going on there, and the food's tremendous. One of my favorite hamburgers in the world. All right, so let's get to our games of the weekend. Brought to you by the Swamp. Friday night game, Stanford to Colorado. Normally you would say, but they're only an 8-point favorite, Colorado. I'm surprised at that. We'll see if Travis Hunter comes back or not. That news may have already come out and I missed it, but because there was a lot of talk that he would. That's on ESPN at 10 o'clock. So you going to stay up for it? I read this stat the other day. We talked about it on the radio. 5 of the top 10 games in viewership this year were Colorado games so far. And the 6th one was the game last week against Arizona State. And that was because it was on the Pac-12 network, which nobody except me, of course, gets. I get everything. But that is pretty amazing what he's been able to do out there. Saturday, our state game of the week is Miami at North Carolina. That is at 7:30 on ABC. That'll be interesting to see how Miami bounces back. The SEC game of the week is, to me, and was picked by the SEC network. CBS. So it's on CBS. Texas A&M at Tennessee. So it's on CBS that in the 3:30 slot. And then our national game, we'll give you 2. Oregon at Washington is on ABC at 3:30, and USC at Notre Dame. I'm looking forward to that one. 7:30 on NBC. So those are our games of the week, brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant. Let's get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club great picks. I need a good week, man. I had a bad week last week. I need to do good. I'm already 1-0 because UTEP. I don't know why I picked UTEP. It was a blind pick, and then I saw when I was watching the game last night, UTEP was 1-5 going into the game, and UTEP won. They got a freshman quarterback at FIU that is unbelievable, good and bad. He one day he may be really good. One day he may be at a different school, but he's a little guy, and he's good, but he can also be really bad. Anyway, all right. So here's my picks for this week. I'm taking I'm taking Miami, getting for against North Carolina. I think Miami will bounce back because I like it when a guy's getting dirt kicked on his coffin. I like that when people are ready to fire him and everything. And I feel like they'll bounce back. And I think North Carolina's defense still isn't very good. So I'm picking Miami. We'll see what happens. I'm picking Kentucky to beat Missouri. Missouri is getting 2.5 points. I think Kentucky's game plan will work against Missouri, and it did work against Florida. It just doesn't work against Georgia. And they could they could play that game 100 times, and Georgia would win 100 of them. That's just the way it is. That's just a bad matchup for Kentucky. Notre Dame is giving 3 at USC, and I am taking Notre Dame, and I hope that the people who said this on on another radio show the other day are right. It's supposed to rain and be really windy at Notre Dame, and so I'm going to take Notre Dame. I might have gotten suckered into that. They're giving 3 too to USC. LSU is giving 11 to Auburn. This is my lock of the week for what that's worth. I cannot believe LSU at home is only only has to give up 11 points at Auburn or to Auburn. Auburn can't score. They have really no offense. And I know LSU's defense is bad. After this game, I will predict this too. Somebody will say, we finally figured things out on defense. No, you played those guys. And then Florida, I am taking South Carolina, a Florida 2.5-point underdog. They've got to show it to me, like I said earlier. They've got to show me they can go on the road and win a game. So that is our Gainesville Quarterback Club. Great picks. And, of course, their tournament is Tuesday. They have a big tournament Tuesday out at the Mark Bostic Golf Course at UF. So that they're looking forward to that. That's going to be a blast. They got a bunch of Gator greats being in there. And I think they're trying to get Coach out there as well. Let's go ahead and get to Pat Dooley's story time, which, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Eastlake Pediatrics. We appreciate them. And I told a couple of South Carolina stories last week, but I'm going to tell one more because that trip up there always seemed to be eventful for some reason. It was just always interesting. But this one year, and it was 2007, we all went up there, and there was a ton of people going up there together. We had a caravan of cars and vans and stuff like that. In fact, I remember stopping at the Jacksonville, right by the airport, because people had to go to the bathroom and get drinks and everything, whatever. And there was everybody had Gator stuff on. There was a Miami fan. He started dog cussing the women, and out of nowhere, nobody said anything to him. He was just mad at them because they were Gator fans, and it was weird. But anyway. So we get up there and we decide we're going to have this great tailgate party in the media parking. It's going to be unbelievable. We got all this stuff. Joe Calorio, our good friend from Titan MRI, had his truck, and we had so much stuff piled into that truck. It was coolers and grill and lighting and everything. And so we pull in there, and the guy isn't going to let us in. We've got a media pass. He goes, and I said, look, I got a media pass too. And he goes, well, you can't take any of this stuff out of the car. So what? And so we drive down there, and so we get out of the car, and we didn't take anything out, but he came driving down there and to make sure we didn't do it. So we said, the heck with this. We're not going to go to media parking. We found a place close by and paid to park, and that was fine. So as we're sitting there, we get a phone call, and it's Jamie Speronis, my good friend, who was at South Carolina because, of course, he was at Florida too. Before that with Coach Spurrier, and he says, hey, we hear Percy Harvin's not going to play. And I'm like, really? Wow. That's not good for Florida. And so I tried to check it out. It was very hard to get the word from anybody. And, of course, Florida's plane stayed on the tarmac for 2 hours waiting for Percy to show up, but he never showed up. But anyway, so I go into that game thinking Florida's going to lose. They are going to lose. And that's the night Tim Tebow won the Heisman, ran for 5 touchdowns. They won the game. In fact, that was when Coach Spurrier said, how many did you get? 2, 3, 5. He couldn't believe it, but he did. So anyway, I don't even know if that is the right night, but I think it's the right night that Robbie forgot. We had to have these little fobs. It was only lasted a year where you had to look at it. You had to type in the number on the fob at that moment in time and to get into your computer. And so we get to the game, and it's like half hour before the game, and Robbie goes, I forgot my fob. And I go, well, I don't know what we're going to do. And so he said, there's only one thing I can do. And he walked back to the hotel. It was like a mile and a half away, probably. And by the time he's coming back, he hears roars coming from the stadium. It turned out South Carolina had fumbled. I think it was that game that year. I think it was. But anyway, the South Carolina stories are fun. I love telling them. And we'll see what happens with the Gators this week. Coach Spurrier will be on Monday. Appreciate Danny Weurffel again. Appreciate Zach for doing a great job as our producer. And until next time, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.